Under the dim glow of the Lagos streetlights, 13-year-old Chidi clutched his worn-out backpack as he weaved through the bustling crowd. The night air carried the scent of roasted plantains and car fumes, a blend that had become the backdrop of his existence since he lost his parents 5 years ago. Chidi had grown accustomed to the chaos of the city, but loneliness was an ever-present shadow. The loss of his parents still haunted him, memories of his mother's warm embrace, and his father's laughter now felt like distant echoes. He lived in a small room at an orphanage run by Mama Esther, a kind-hearted woman who had taken in as many children as she could. The orphanage was overcrowded and resources were scarce, yet Mama Esther never turned away a child in need, despite his circumstances. Chidi harbored a dream to become an engineer. He would sit for hours near construction sites, watching in awe as towering buildings took shape. He sketched blueprints on scraps of paper he collected from the streets, using a blunt pencil he had found in a dustbin. Though his school fees were uncertain, he devoured every book he could find, hoping that knowledge would carve a path out of his struggles. One evening, as he returned from selling sachet water at a busy intersection, he overheard a conversation between two men outside a bookstore. They spoke of a scholarship program for underprivileged children interested in science and engineering. Chidi's heart pounded. Could this be the chance he had been waiting for? Determined, he spent the next week gathering information. With Mama Esther's help, he filled out the application form, pouring his heart into the essay section. He wrote about his dream, his struggles, and his unwavering belief that education was his only way forward. Weeks passed. The day the results were announced, Chidi could barely breathe as he checked the list posted outside the bookstore. His name was there. He had won the scholarship. Tears streamed down his face as he ran back to the orphanage, his heart soaring with hope. That night, he sat under the pale moonlight, holding the acceptance letter in his hands. For the first time in years, the loneliness felt distant. He whispered to himself, "Mama, Papa, I won. I will make you proud." Chidi's journey was only beginning. With the scholarship, he was able to attend one of the best schools in the city. It was intimidating at first. His classmates spoke fluent English, their crisp uniforms starkly different from his hand-me-downs. He often sat alone, eating in silence, acutely aware of the gap between his world and theirs. But he refused to be discouraged. He studied harder than ever, spending nights poring over engineering books borrowed from the library. Over time, Chidi's perseverance began to shine. His teachers noticed his passion and mentored him, guiding him through complex mathematical problems and engineering principles. He excelled in school, winning science competitions and gaining recognition among his peers. Yet, life was not without its challenges. There were days he went to bed hungry, nights when the power went out, and he had to study by candlelight. He missed his parents deeply, sometimes staring at the sky, wondering if they could see him. But each obstacle only fueled his determination. One day, an opportunity arose that would change everything. A nationwide science fair was announced, and the winner would receive a full scholarship to study abroad. Chidi poured his soul into his project, a model of an energy-efficient home, designed to provide electricity to underprivileged communities using affordable materials. The competition was fierce. Students from prestigious schools presented impressive projects, but Chidi's invention stood out. The judges were captivated not just by his innovation, but by his story, the boy from the streets of Lagos who had dared to dream. When his name was announced as the winner, Chidi could hardly believe it. Mama Esther wept with joy as she hugged him. The orphanage children cheered, proud of their brother who had defied the odds. A year later, Chidi found himself boarding a plane for the first time, heading to a university abroad. As he looked out of the window, Watching the city he had fought so hard to rise from fade into the clouds, he smiled. He was no longer just an orphan. He was a builder of dreams, a beacon of hope for those who believed that no matter where you come from, the sun can rise for you too. Years passed. Chidi excelled in university, graduating with honors in civil engineering. He was offered opportunities to work abroad, but his heart remained in Nigeria. He wanted to return and build a future for those like him, children who dared to dream despite the odds. Upon his return, Chidi established an organization dedicated to providing solar-powered homes to impoverished communities. His innovative approach caught the attention of global investors. The young boy who once studied under streetlights was now lighting up entire villages. His orphanage, too, was transformed. He expanded it into a learning center where children received not just shelter, but quality education and mentorship. Mama Esther, now elderly, watched with pride as the boy she had once nurtured became a beacon of change. However, success brought its own challenges. Chidi's projects faced resistance from corrupt officials who saw his organization as a threat to their power. Bribes were demanded, approvals were delayed, and obstacles mounted. But Chidi refused to give up. He rallied support from the international community, using his growing influence to push past barriers and ensure his vision came to life. As the years went by, Chidi's impact expanded beyond Nigeria. His designs were implemented in other African countries facing similar energy crises. He became a sought-after speaker, sharing his journey and inspiring young minds across the world. One day, Chidi stood before the United Nations, speaking about sustainable development and the power of resilience. As he gazed at the audience, world leaders, engineers, and young dreamers like himself, he realized how far he had come. When he returned home, he visited Mama Esther, now frail, but still full of warmth. Sitting beside her, he held her hand and whispered, "Everything you did for me, I will do for others." That night, Chidi stood on the balcony of the new learning center, watching the sunset over the city. He felt an overwhelming sense of fulfillment. His journey had been long and challenging, but every hardship had shaped him into the man he was. Tears welled in his eyes as he thought of his parents, wishing they could see what he had become. He whispered into the evening breeze, "I hope I've made you proud." He was proof that hope, resilience, and determination could turn even the darkest of nights into the brightest dawns. And as he looked at the children playing below, he knew that the rising sun was no longer just his, it belonged to all of them. Chidi's work continued to expand, reaching even the most remote villages. He partnered with international organizations, bringing sustainable energy solutions and educational programs to places long forgotten. Schools that had once operated in darkness now had solar-powered classrooms, allowing children to study after sunset. Despite his success, Chidi remained humble. He often returned to the streets where he once sold sachet water, speaking to children who reminded him of his younger self. He would sit with them, sketching blueprints and telling them, "Your dreams are valid, no matter where you start." Through his journey, Chidi had become more than an orphan with a dream. He had become a symbol of resilience, proving that the power to change the world lies in those who dare to believe. And so, as the sun rose over Lagos, it carried with it the promise that no dream was too big, no struggle too great, and no past too heavy to keep a determined heart from soaring. Please like and subscribe. Until I bring another story, let me say goodbye for my lovely fan.